committee. So first thing on the agenda is members of the public. I believe we're due to have Roger House here to ask ask us a question. I don't think he's here, is he? No. So we'll press on. So the first item is apologies. Do we have any apologies? I don't think so. We're all here. I think. Yeah, thank you. Second item, any declarations of interest on the agenda items that we're going to be discussing this evening. So moving on to the minutes of the last meeting. Have we all read the minutes of the last meeting that was held on November 4th? Any questions at all? No, and you're happy for me to sign them? Oh, actually, can I have a proposer? Councillor O'Donnell, and a seconder, Councillor Strauss, and all those in favour? That's carried. I'll sign those minutes later. I'll sign them. So the next item is the forward plan. Have we all had time to have a quick look through the forward plan for where we are at the moment? So we can see that we've got on the agenda this evening, we've got the bunting, the tree policy and the rain gardens, and we've got quite one or two the events from council around policy and the biodiversity policy are going on. Probably move those to the next to January, I think.
They're going directly
to okay, so they're going directly to finance and governance, and we're already planning for what's going on the January agenda already. So I'm sure that will grow before we get to January. Any comments?
I mean, I'm hoping to have a wins for the
Ward members initiative.
Somehow I just anatomise it.
No, I know.
Atomise it. Is that a word? The wins and just transfer. But I'm hoping to have a wins ward member initiative and for January. So I have submitted that. So hoping it might be there, but
yeah,
perhaps they get treated separately.
Yeah, could be. So yes, I think there's one or two things that will be going that's not on here already that are going on to back to January. Any other comments? That's right.
Confused.com. Is the pontoon on tonight, or is it another one?
Yeah, the report was withdrawn. Yeah, so it's been withdrawn, but it's not been withdrawn off of the plan. Craig, can we make a note to take that off moving forward?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Follow-up question: where's the pontoon going in terms of discussion thereof and everything?
Yeah, Craig, would you like to answer that one?
Yeah, thanks, Chair. So the pontoon report was just pulled off because there was just a bit more information required regarding the costs and the work that's involved on the pontoon. Obviously, at the moment, it's still under the ownership and responsibility of Somerset Council. So there's just a bit more work needed, background information that needs to be pulled together, and then we can bring it forward to the committee. It was also recognised that the pontoon specifically wasn't captured as part of our community in place plan. So we just need to kind of understand what the resource implications are for that. So once we've worked through that, we can then bring it back to the committee for a decision. When?
Yeah, and I think it's something that actually I'm keeping a close eye on, because I think it's something that we need to look at in a wider about what is actually classed as on the strategy and what is classed as we need to do it. And I think it's a wider conversation that I will certainly take to the next strategy meeting, I think in January, because I think there are going to be occasions where there are going to be items that come up that possibly aren't on the strategy that we do need to address and we need to look at. Can I just go to Councillor Strauss, then I'll come back to Councillor Ellis.
I just wanted to ask for the record, do we have to get the approval of the Environment Agency because it's on the river, which is their responsibility?
Do you want to answer that one?
Yeah, thanks, Councillor Strauss. So yes, it is very much on the river. As part of the preliminary research that's been carried out, conversations have been taking place with the Environment Agency. So we would, if work got approved and agreed, consultation with the Environment Agency to ensure that all the necessary licenses and considerations are put in place for any works that are carried out. But yeah, we have had conversations with them. They've informed us that although they don't have it on record that it is Somerset Council's asset, they are 99.99% sure, just due to its location, to its proximity to the land that is owned by Somerset Council, and the nearest property, which is the Brewhouse Theatre, it's also owned by Somerset Council. So yeah,
Thank you for clarifying that.
Plenty of conversations with the Environment Agency. Thank you.
That's great, Councillor Wallace.
Are we on the same page using the strategic importance of being able to access the river, especially with the Night of the Dragon Boat Festival coming up in June, which is going to be massive for the town? So they need a way of easily getting in the water. Just that, you know, I know it's, you know, Somerset Council in theory should be doing X, Y, and Z. In reality, forget it. If in terms of anything to do with the river and bringing Taunton to life around the river, it's kind of us that's got. I'm really grateful for the work that you've done so far on this. I know you didn't need to, so I'm really grateful for it. But I think strategically we have to understand that we're the ones that are going to have to make the running here and take a lead and pull everybody else along with us. Hopefully, I mean, it's not just about the Dragon Boat Race. We couldn't have the launch of those fantastic feral practices like I don't know what you call it. It's not a boat. What is it? Platform, sailing platform. Yeah, we did it some French River in the end. That was great. Yeah. But this is going to keep popping up. Yeah. So I hope we're all on the same page as to strategic significance of said pontoon.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I'm absolutely on the right. I'm on the same page as well as you, Councillor S. Yeah, definitely. I think one of the things that we did that I'm going slightly off tangent here, but one of the things that did crop up, I think, with our discussions is when are they closing the bridge? You know, the Morrison's Bridge for the work, because the pontoon was very close to that, and it's whether they'll be able to access the pontoon while Somerset Council are doing works on the bridge. So it's just worth a question, maybe. Yeah, good point to do.
And I think it extends beyond that as well, isn't it? Because the entrance to the pontoon is literally right by the bridge, isn't it?
Yeah.
And if that bridge's whole aspect is changing, we need to get advanced plans of what that's going to look like. I mean, there are plans out there, so we can see. Yes.
Yeah, so I think it's part of a large conversation. I think that's sort of different things coming in the mix, but absolutely, I'm on the same page, definitely.
No, we need to look at how we can access the pontoon once the bridge, not just being changed, but actually once it's new locations in there, that might be cutting right across how we access the pontoon at the moment.
Yeah, so it's that wider conversation, isn't it? I think definitely. Thank you, and thank you for that. There's some really useful conversation and useful discussion. And any other comments about the forward plan before we move on? No? Okay, thank you very much. So, update from the chair. We sort of had a couple of discussions with Ollie about this. Because we meet every month, most of the things that we discuss in minutes are usually coming to a different community place meeting. So there's not really any sort of significant updates. Just a brief update is that we've the interviews have been held with the community officer, the new community lead, community officer, and an offer's been made, and the new person should be his host hopefully in January. So that's a really good positive piece of news, and also for resources wise for us as a committee and team. So we'll move on now to the updates from the chairs of the working groups. So Arts and Culture in Taunton, Councillor Ellis.
Yeah, we had a really good meeting on the 13th of November.
Yeah.
We had really good attendance. We had Vicky from the Brewhouse, and we had Sean from the museum. We had Jackie Clementine that will help. Basically, Tim Hill, Hughes, you know, loads of people. Richard from Giggle. We had a really good discussion, and the main our focus was on the government's announcement about there being a new UK Town of Culture competition, which will run alongside the UK existing City of Culture competition. And so we made a recommendation, which will be coming hopefully to you in January, that we would like Taunton to definitely want Taunton to bid for the UK Town of Culture. I don't think the applications haven't opened yet. They basically just announced it, the sort of bare bones of it. So it's targeted at small to medium towns. I think it's sort of upper and medium, and it's going to be judged on 3 main criteria, like how well you're able to tell your story, the unique stories of the town, culture for everyone, having a cultural program for all, and how you will deliver a successful program. And so there'll be like a 2-stage process, I think. So there'll be a process to get on a short list, and there'll be like I don't know, I guess it'll be an expression of interest thing. So you have to do some sort of short sort of pitch. And if you get shortlisted, that could mean 60 grand that comes your way so that you can develop a fuller bid. And the winning town gets 3.5 million during this to basically lay on a whole programme of events over the summer of 2028. So it's like, it might be a long shot, but we agreed that we actually have a lot of we've got the history, not just the history of the town, but the history of the peoples in the town, and we've got fascinating stories to tell. We've got a track record of knowing how to do fantastic outdoor events. And we've got a very close-knit cultural community that they were all building over themselves, saying we will do stuff, we want to be part of this, all of them. And I think that, you know, we've got such strengths with that. So that was really, really positive. We also discussed like maybe we need to sort of formalise some of the way we work together. In Bridgewater, they have like a cultural consortium, which is like a sort of more formal thing, which involves the town council, but it involves all the culture partners as well. So we're quite keen to explore that. So that was really good. I just want to say big, massive hurrah to Voce Chamber Choir, who did a fantastic, amazing, beautiful concert on, was it Saturday, Temple Methodist Church. It was just in which Councillor Rebecca Hughes performed a solo, and also a work that she'd not composed but arranged. It was just absolutely brilliant. I'm really looking forward to the Nutcracker, which is open. I think it's opening night tonight. Some of us may be seeing it this week. The Brewhouse Christmas show needs to be supported, but it will be amazing. Original music, original everything. Just brilliant. There's loads more. Oh, well, the Christmas tree trail, that's very exciting too. The whole Christmas programme, really.
Yes, and there was a bit about the Jazz and Blues Festival as well. Because Matt came and talked to the group, and they were very excited about that. That's happening, and he was just reporting on progress with that. And then I have got to report the very sad death of Sheila Reid, who's the chair of Southern Symphonia, and I'm very, very sad about that. You know, because she was a real live wire. She's really fought to get this orchestra based in Taunton and to keep it going. And we want to continue with that. It's very important, because if we want to be a town of culture and we want to be a cultural destination, we need classical music orchestras. And we have 2 in Taunton. We're very fortunate. And so we want to build on Sheila's legacy now and keep Southern Symphonia, you know, up and running and going. And we'll do our best to do that, yes.
Thank you, Councillor Garside. It's lovely. And I think it's Councillor Rose again for the climate and ecological.
We haven't had a meeting of that one or the youth one, so I've got new updates though.
So I can feed back on the Civic Task and Finish group. We held a meeting recently, just a sort of couple of points, just a couple of discussion points that we looked at. It's going to be the 150th year of the mayoralty in 2027, I believe. So there'll start being the plans starting to be formulated sort of around an ideas now, and also throughout next year as well. We looked at the blue plaque scheme. We're also working towards the Mayor's Cadet, discussion on the process and the selection for the Mayor's Cadet. Also working with we as a town council are signed up to the Armed Forces Covenant. We're currently at bronze standard, and we're hoping to raise that level to silver over the next few months. So there's just a little snapshot of what we were talking about in the civic task and finish group. There's probably a lot more bits and pieces, but they were the main points that came out of that. So the twinning working group and public transport, I believe, are both yours, Councillor Strauss.
We haven't met really since the last meeting. I've got nothing basic to report tonight.
Okay, thank you.
But an update on the young people working.
Okay. Hospitality, tourism and leisure working group, Councillor Garside.
No, we haven't met either. So yes.
Fine. And of course, obviously, because we meet every month, there's going to be times where we're not actually doing it, and maybe we can when the agenda setting goes out, maybe we can just liaise with Ollie as to say if any of the working groups have got anything to feed back, then we can put that in, and then that saves a bit of time when we're working through the agenda. I think that probably works well. Craig.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. I just thought it would, for the benefit of Councillor Ellis, with the youth tender that went out, it closed last week. So I can confirm that we've had 3 proposals. So the community support assistant will be in contact with the nominated councillor to go to go through that shortlisting and the evaluation criteria. So I think Councillor Pollard is on that list. So things are progressing from that perspective, which is good. Thanks, Chair.
Fabulous. That's great. That's brilliant. Okay, so moving on to item 7, the local policing verbal update. I believe we've got Sharon Baker online.
Hello, good evening, everybody. Hope you're all well. Thank you for the invite. I don't believe there are any actual questions for me that were pre-planned, so I will just have a quick overview with you as to the sorts of things that we've been doing over the last few weeks. Obviously, there's lots of festive activities planned that we are making well, we are attempting to get to. Somerset Cricket Club, for example, with the ice rink and such like. So that's all great, bringing people into the town. We've been spending a lot of time up in the town centre. Crown Walk was an issue with lots of reports of antisocial behaviour from individuals, some from businesses. Not actually that many from members of the public, but we've consulted with our antisocial behaviour team. We've taken some guidance and we are encouraging reports to come through. But again, working with the outreach team and with the businesses and with the landowner as well, in relation to trying to make that area safer and more presentable for members of the public, but also trying to look at support for those individuals that are living there at the moment and trying to make their world a little better. We had Winterfest, the Christmas light switch on, as you know, last weekend, which was our Oppo team working that particular weekend. We've been into North Town Primary School. We've been completing a series of 9 weeks education with the mini police, which is years 5 and 6, which is fantastic. They all have their uniform and we work around good citizenship, etc. And I actually popped in last week to support the 2 PCSOs. That's great. And we've got their leaving ceremony coming up. So we really encourage and try and get to as many schools as we can with that scheme, completely free. We have done various bits of engagement actually at the moment. This weekend, just previously, myself and 2 PCSAs visited a Nigerian community and spoke with them around hate crime. We were invited from the leader, spoke about hate crime, safety on the streets, crime prevention, etc. We spent about an hour and a half with them at St James's Church. So we've been invited back to that, which is great. Working with our isolated communities are really important to us, so we've been spending time doing that. We've had a couple of weeks of action around drugs and knife crime, and we've been into actually Somerset College today and various schools, again with education, particularly in light of the incident that happened back probably a week or so ago now. So yeah, education, information, really important. Dedicated patrols now up until the end of December in the town centre. We call it Op Glitz, but it's dedicated patrols where we have officers actually prioritise there. Again, that's to look at keeping our community safer, but looking at our prolific shoplifters, etc., which worked very well last year. So we'll be focusing on that same piece of work. And likewise, we've got what was known as Optonic, and that's our drink drive campaign now for the whole of December. So lots to keep us busy. And today, one of our prolific sort of male offenders, he was arrested, and I mentioned the incident back on the 24th in Priorswood. A male suspect has been arrested for that and has police bail conditions. So we continue to work with our communities, gathering intel, working with all of the partner agencies, our schools, our lower level FIS services, etc. But yeah, lots going on. Welcome any questions.
That's brilliant. Thanks so much for that, Sharon. Craig.
Yeah, hi Sharon.
Hello, Craig.
Hi, just a quick one. When you just mentioned about the kind of people you are engaged with and working with, the only obvious thing I saw was that there was no mention of the street marshals, and I'm just wondering whether they're part of, you know, the outreach work that you're doing in Crown Walk, and particularly around the High Street area.
Yeah, absolutely they are. And really good to know that there's 2 of them now. We've got 2 town centre PCSOs, and I know one particularly has a regular communication with them, and they often feed into our emails, etc. There has also been a question for them to actually attend the outreach meetings, because it would be, and we're supportive of that, because actually it would be great. They are eyes and ears on the street, professional, and obviously see a lot of things. So I think it would be really beneficial for them to feed into that meeting, and that question's been asked. Again, it's around data protection. I'm sure there's a lot of GDPR and data protection, but actually if we're safeguarding individuals, there's a really good need for our 2 town marshals to be involved in that. But yeah, we've got open dialogue with them all of the time, and yeah, they're great.
Thank you, and that's great, and it's good to know that we've got there's a good town centre presence in that festive run up, because obviously quite a few questions get answered about, you know, that visibility side of things within the town centre. So that's really good news. Does anybody have any questions for Sharon while we've got her? Councillor Garside.
Recently we had the community review, and top of the list was people feeling frightened. They thought that Taunton town centre was a dangerous place. And I walk at night, particularly at night, and I walk around at night. I mean, because I don't have a car, so I walk through the town quite often. I never see any danger there, but it's absolutely empty. It's empty. It's like a ghost town. And, you know, how can we get the message out there that actually the town centre isn't dangerous, because it's actually ruining the nighttime economy? I mean, is there any way that you can think of that we can get the message out there that actually the town centre itself is not a dangerous place at night?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, we've got a couple of initiatives that we run, Walk and Talk and Street Safe. Both are free initiatives that are widely advertised and available on our website. We'll encourage people to come out. We'll walk with them. We'll go to various areas that they may perceive as being vulnerable, and we'll talk through those reasons why they believe it is. And then we'll give that sort of counter argument, but also we'll listen to what they have to say. And it could be that actually other agencies can get involved to help make that area feel safer. And yes, I mean, we have a nighttime economy. We have dedicated patrols that start at 10 p.m. and go throughout the night, where you would see uniformed officers, but that's more later. So that's to cover our sort of pubs and clubs and you know, that later nighttime economy. But the early evening, and I think just because it's seasonal, the darker nights. So I agree with you. I think that the town centre is a safe place. Yes, we do have a few issues, but actually we respond to those issues and we work really well with partners to resolve that. Whether it's daytime or nighttime, all I can do is, you know, we can encourage people to come in, talk to us, feed into us, and let us know what their concerns are, so that we can help you know, relay and hopefully reduce those concerns.
Thank you.
Thank you, councillor Garside. Any other questions for Sharon? No? Okay, so no further questions, but thank you so much, Sharon. Thank you for giving up your time and
No
giving us
problem,
that
Chair.
update.
Thank you.
That's really
Thank
useful.
you.
Thank
Could-
you.
May I just ask one question? Is that okay? The team did ask us whether UK PAC, how's that going along, and you know, have we had any feedback recently, and are they submitting their reports to us?
Thanks, Sharon. Craig, can you respond to that?
Yeah, thanks, Chair. Sharon, actually, I have not had a recent update. So what I will do is I will touch base with SWL and just get a bit of an update on the UK PAC model. We know that it's still in operation. We know that the businesses should still be using it. We know the street marshals are still using it as a tool to be logging incidents, building up those profiles of repeat offenders. So I'll let you know how many we currently have signed up and what that picture looks like. I would hope that actually they are engaging with the local police team here with regards to the profiles that they're building on the UK PAC model. So if you're not receiving that information, I'll follow that up too, because that's really important. So.
Yes, fabulous. Thank you. I think we just need to make sure we've got that clear crime picture, particularly now leading into Christmas and beyond. But yes, important that we are all working together to ensure that we know what they know and they know what we know. So we can deal with the offenders. So yeah, fabulous.
Absolutely. Thanks so much. Thanks for that, Craig. And yes, Craig will be in touch with that.
Lovely. Thank
Thanks
you.
so much, Sharon. Thank
Okay,
you.
take care all. Bye-bye. Bye.
Bye. Thank you. So moving on now to item 7, which is about the bunting. Over to you, Craig, to deliver your report.
Thank you, Chair. So this report is asking you guys to approve spending of £8,683 from the banners and bunting budget for new large-scale bunting across the town centre. It also asks you to agree that we use the Taunton Together colour palette for 2026. We do buntings, it's a nice, easy way to make the town centre look better, with the aim of increasing footfall and dwell time in the high street when they're nice and dressed. We've had a positive history of it before. It makes that town centre look like a place that is a place to be, a happening place that encourages people to stay longer. In the past, we've used Ukrainian flag colours and the British flag this previous year. And as I said, for 2026, we're looking at the Taunton Together colours. A mock-up of it is in the pack, but it did miss one of the colours because of Canva issues. The proposal covers 11 locations across East Street, North Street and High Street. I believe it's 3 each in North Street and High Street and 5 on East Street. This bunting can last several years, so it can be reused when it's taken down in the future at our events or even put up again in the future. We will look at the possibility of our open spaces team using their equipment to put it up themselves, but that's something we need to investigate further because we need to check they've got the right licenses and equipment. But it is a way that we might be able to reduce costs in the future. In terms of climate impact, it's going to be low because there's only 11 locations. It's lightweight plastic, reusable materials. The indicative costs, we're looking at spending about £6,000 this year. So the plan would be to install the new bunting late in March, and there would be, I think, about £1,500 of costs in the following year for removal. There's not many risks associated with this. One we identified was colour sensitivity, making sure that there aren't any colours or combinations of colours that might have significance to certain communities or peoples. But the Taunton Together colours have already been tested in the public and haven't caused any complaints. No equalities impact assessment has been done for this because it doesn't alter any services or anything like that. So the recommendation is for members to approve to spend and agree to adopt the Taunton Together colours for 2026.
Thank you, Craig. Thank you. Councillor Strauss and then Councillor Evans.
I just want to raise this in a diplomatic way. In my capacity as mayor, I get approached by lots of different people for different reasons. And during recent months, I've been approached by two different traders, Watkins, the toy shop in East Reach, and again, just a couple of days ago, the lighting shop. And I've had this raised before, and I know we've got to draw the line somewhere, but that part of town seems to be the poor relation within Taunton. And I just wonder, is there something that we could do to show the traders in East Reach that we're doing something, whether it's the bunting or the roads being closed off by the traffic lights and therefore people turn round and go back towards the town centre. This is a perennial problem, and it's not just this year. I've been approached, I would say, ever since we've formed Taunton Town Council. So just a plea, is that something we look at to see what we might be able to do? That's all I'm saying. I don't want to be any more specific than that. I'm in a difficult position as mayor. I do explain to them that as mayor, I've got to look after the interest of town in general. And this is something that really needs to be taken up, perhaps with the councillors for the wards in question and so on.
Thank you, Councillor Strauss. It's something I'll certainly take back and take away from this and have a chat with Craig and Craig outside, away from the meeting.
Maybe just going round and talking to them, Craig, and seeing the shops down there and seeing if we can do something.
Craig, did you want to respond?
Yeah, thanks, Chair. Yeah, there's a couple of ideas and suggestions. So we know that we can't put the catenary cables across the highway down the street because actually the width of the road or the width of the highway is so significant that actually it doesn't sustain it. But what we have historically done, and I just kind of go back to the 2019 year when we had the Cricket World Cup, that there were a number of lampposts down in East Street that were then, I say East Reach, that's what we're talking about here. They were strain tested to see whether we could put some banners on to say, Cricket World Cup, welcome to Taunton, visit Taunton, that kind of stuff. So maybe as part of the new budget in 26-27, we could look at putting some banners on the lampposts that we know historically have been strain tested and can accommodate some banners down that East Reach side of town to add a bit of colour and vibrancy.
May just, if I may, Chair, just to say, could we just informally have a chat with the traders and just get their first-hand comments on what they feel they might like to see? What I have said to them all is that the line has to be drawn somewhere. Somebody is going to be the wrong side of wherever we finish. So I have said that to them, but I thank you for that.
One thing,
Yeah, maybe.
stress is the Christmas tree trail does go down to East Reach this year, so it is included in our Christmas offer.
Thank you.
Thank you. That's Craig. Councillor Owens.
Yeah, a couple of questions. I do agree about bunting. I mean, I'm a bunting person. I experience the need to buntingize. I have many sets of homemade bunting for various occasions. Not absolutely every occasion that you could possibly imagine, but a significant number of occasions, and it does just lift things, I think. Nice quality. So is the idea, so we obviously the £8 or whatever, that's the cost of the bunting and then the installation removal. So we'll be reusing said bunting, and so it'll be Taunton together colours. But did you say March installation? So I'm just wondering, what is the sort of plan for what bunting goes up when? I'm interested, what other bunting do we have in the bottom drawer? Is it literally that the Union Jack bunting? We've still got that. We would be able to reuse that whenever we need to. I'm just kind of trying to understand. So it's going up, because when I've seen Taunton together, I thought, oh, maybe around the months around the festival. But obviously it's, for this month as well, get a bit more use out of it. So is the idea put it up in the spring and have it go through?
Yeah, so
to
the
the end
Jack
of summer.
Taunton was up from, I think it was around April last time until we took it down late October, I think it was. We had to take it down around that time for the Christmas lights to be ready. So yeah, that'd be the rough timeline we'd be looking at here. We do own the bunting, so we pay for it ourselves by it. But I think we do need to track down exactly where it is, because the company took it down and I'm not sure where it is at the moment for the Union Jack bunting.
That's all right.
Sorry, I've got two other questions, but he got his hand first.
Yeah, so I mean, I think on bunting, sort of anything that makes our high street look vibrant and colourful. So just be clear, this bunting's going along all the wires that stretch across all our roads. Because I think if anyone reading this report might not see that it's not just one set of bunting, but it's going all the way down East Street, all the way up North Street, and all the way down the High Street as well.
Yeah.
Yes, we've got through. So it's going up in March, and then it will just come down at Christmas, because it's £1,000 to install and £1,200 to remove. Is that each time? So if we start in March and then replace it in June with, say, Union Jack bunting, you know, when it's coming up to Armed Forces Day and things like that, is that an additional £1,200 to remove the first lot, and then £1,000 to put up the new lot?
Yep.
And then £1,200 to take that down to put £1,000, because where's that money? Because that money's not listed here in this budget.
Yeah, I can come back. I think the idea is that the buntings will stay up. Once they're up, they will stay up.
It'd be nice to be able to do that in the future. I think that's why we reference our in-house teams. If we can get the in-house teams with the capacity and the equipment and the licenses, so we might have some more flexibility around it.
Yeah, so
But
£1,000 to put it up, £1,200 to take it down for once. But if we're taking up, taking it down, bringing it up, taking it down, that's
so the plan
that
would be
would
to keep 1 year until October time and Christmas
so
time.
we wouldn't be changing it once it's up.
No, but you can use bunting in other places. If the Union Jack bunting was relevant for an event, we can put it up at the event, that kind of thing.
So once the Taunton Together colours go up in March, they would pretty much stay up there till
Yeah.
Christmas. Okay.
But we will be working with Open Spaces team to see if their crews will be able to do the work, and then we might have more flexibility in the future. But a lot to work through on capacity and, like I say, licenses and regulations first.
We could, yeah, and absolutely, we could probably save some of those costs if we've got our in-house team to do it and have that, as Craig says,
Yeah.
that flexibility.
I think we're a little way off with my obstinate hat on. We are a little way off.
I don't want to do that, not too hard.
I was also thinking about the maintenance programme of
Yeah.
the bunting, just in case, you know. I know the report says it's all nice and resilient, but
It would look better over time, depends on what the
start
condition.
appearing and, you know,
Yeah.
getting the toothless cats. Would we go and replace it there and then, or would we just? I can answer.
Great.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. So historically, when we've seen like the Union bunting that was up this year, if we've started to see concerns, we would just make a call to the supplier and they would be very happy to come out and correct anything that needed to be corrected. And there was no additional costs that we incurred this year as a result of any call out fees.
But this
Which
will
is
be
great.
our bunting from now on there.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah, so the cost will now be ours.
So the bunting that went up this year was the Union flag bunting, which is ours. Who paid for it? It's just at the moment they happen to just, they have it somewhere. We don't know where it is, but we'll track it down.
Thank you. Thank you. Councillor Ellis.
Yeah, definitely need to find our bunting or
Yeah.
or Union bunting. Yeah, no, it's following on from Martin's thing about East Street. So obviously we couldn't extend the Christmas lights this year to like Station Road, Bridge Street and down the other end because of technical issues, although we've wired the funds so that can happen in the future. By the same token, will we have enough of this bunting to go right the way down Station Road, Bridge Street into town and then out the other end? Will we have enough of it if we approve this now for the following year?
This includes the cost just for those 11 locations we have at the moment. So we'd have to ask for more money and more bunting again if we were to do that.
That's not without, it's not without the realms of possibility. Yeah. Councillor Strauss.
Just ballpark figure, roughly how much does bunting cost? Is it very expensive?
The bulk of that cost there was the bunting itself. I don't have a fresh quote. The one
No,
we
no.
used for this was what we paid last year. But so what was that? 4,400 was installation removal costs, and the rest
Yeah.
of that cost is in.
But if we own the
itself.
bunting, then
Yeah.
it's merely the installation cost each year.
Yes, and you'd expect it to last 3 or 4 years, depending on weather conditions
Okay.
at the time.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. If you've got no further questions or briefly, Councillor Ellis?
Yeah, I just wondered, you said it's made out of plastic. What kind of plastic? Is it some sort of nice planty bioplastic or is it plastic?
I'd have to get back to you on that one.
Yeah, if you could, yeah. I think, I mean, we should also look at things like more dressing. We've got the lovely Christmas tree trail now, but in past years, I'm sure Jenny and Liz at Go Create in past, I don't know whether it was Summerfest or Taunton Live events, had gorgeous banners. that were just DIY, you know, it's very easy to make beautiful things that are, you know, bespoke and created for specific occasions, to add, you know, up smaller streets, having a bit of street decor.
Thank you.
Smaller streets, you get more flexibility, but these are very large to go be impactful across that size. So yeah, I think material choices are a bit limited in that regard, but I'll let you know.
Thanks, Kathy. Really good points. Thank you. So we're being asked to, we go to the vote, we're being asked to approve the spend of £8,683 from budget line 160 7201 banners and buntings for the purchase and installation of bunting with delegated authority given to community and place manager, and to approve the use of the Taunton Together colours for the bunting in 2026. And I'll take those two as one. So can I have a proposer, please? Councillor Pollard and a seconder. Councillor Ellis, all those in favour? And that's carried. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Yes, thanks ever so much, Craig. Thank you. Moving on to agenda item 9, which is the Rain Gardens and Swales project brief. So we are being asked to review and approve the Rain Gardens and Swales project brief, ready for review and potential consultants. And councillors to note that the item will return to committee once quotes and indicative budgets are received and established. And I'm delighted to welcome Jordan to her first committee meeting, and let us hear your report. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. So as you know, we've been taking part in the Watermark Town Award with Wessex Water. And as part of that, we committed to investigating the feasibility and, if feasible, the delivery of rain gardens and swales across Taunton. This report is to review the project brief that's been generated by myself with oversight from the Open Spaces Lead, the Facilities Lead and the Health and Safety Lead to distribute to potential consultants. From their responses, we would then seek to proceed with a selected consultant. It is worth noting, though, that there is a potential that the quotes may come back above the £25,000 threshold, which would activate the tender process. So at this stage, we're just looking at their responses to the approach. A bit of background on what a rain garden and a swale is. There's some photos on the report and a bit more of an in-depth description, but essentially a rain garden is a more ornamental version of a swale. So it's quite appropriate for parks that might be a bit more showy, perhaps around the edges of buildings where you want it to look a bit more visually appealing. A swale is a wilder and more scrubby version of that, and it has a lot more biodiverse plantings, so they're quite suitable along the edges of parks. Both of them help to slow the flow of water during high rainfall to prevent flash flooding, and Taunton is situated on a floodplain, and we are in one of the higher risk flood areas of Somerset. Though Somerset Council are undertaking flood alleviation works along the Tone, the project would strengthen residential areas further away, which might deal with surface flooding from stormwater. The high coverage of non-porous surfaces in urban spaces means that there is a reduced capacity for us to store water during periods of heavy rainfall. This increases the volume of runoff into existing waterways, which causes overload, which risks flash flooding, and it also pollutes the waterways as well. The purpose of the rain garden and swale is a nature-based solution in urban centres which collects the stormwater and holds it temporarily so it can be safely held and dissipated more slowly. It also provides filtration to pollutants, it protects the soil from erosion, and it also provides habitats for local wildlife. From the project brief, you can see that we've identified 3 potential sites that we feel might be appropriate. They are French Weir, Hamilton, Galt and Gowington playing fields. Consultants will be asked, however, to investigate the feasibility of these sites or identify new and more suitable locations across the town. They would also be asked to design and deliver the project and ensure that there is a community engagement element in it as well. In terms of a timeline, we would be aiming for the project to be carried out over the next year to 2 years, depending on the size, scale and works required. So this timeline would bring us roughly to January 2028. It fulfills various ambitions of the climate plan and contributes towards a sustainable environment as part of our corporate plan. And in terms of the financial implications, we might have to go out to tender depending on what the responses are. It will also use a bit of officer time, so myself and the officers that were mentioned above, and also potentially the grants officer if we need to seek extra funding. In terms of the risks associated with it, it's mainly that if we don't look to implement something like this, there is areas that are at high risk of flooding, risk of more pollutants running off into the waterways, and we know that the River Taunton is already in a very poor condition currently. Also risk of further sewage expulsions into rivers due to large quantities of surface runoff, and overwhelmed systems may lead to drain overflows in streets as well. An equality impact assessment was conducted. We looked at age, disability, pregnancy and maternity. The main risks were associated with risks of falls. So because the rain gardens and the swales are an indent in the ground, we do have the health and safety lead with us on this project. So he's making sure we're covering all those things. And we would ensure that there would be some sort of adequate fencing and signage factored into the design as well.
Fabulous, thank you so much. And that sounds like a really interesting, it's quite an exciting project. I've got a question. So once they're actually in place, would they look after themselves? I'm just thinking about the maintenance side of things, and you know, how much, if there's, you know, whether the operations team or the parks team would need to get involved, or is it once they're in place, they look after themselves?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. So we've got the open spaces lead that's sitting on this project with us, and one of the things that we've asked when we've been having initial conversations with consultants is we want it to be as low maintenance as possible. A swale would be the more low maintenance option. I think they mentioned something that it would only need clearing once a year. Ornamental planting for a rain garden might be a bit more maintenance, but honestly it depends on the species that you choose. But we do have the open spaces lead with us in the project.
Thank you for that. Councillor Ellis.
Yeah, I know, I warmly welcome this. I think it, you know, if everyone's garden was a rain garden, we would have vastly less issues about, we do get this sort of flash flooding and people get worried. It hasn't like overwhelmed certain streets, but our drains literally cannot cope. They cannot cope with the amount of rainfall. The sheer amount of it is just overwhelming. It's a completely overwhelming system. That said, there are drains that aren't properly looked after. Okay, that's another story. So I warmly welcome this. I know it's mainly focused now on our parks, obviously, but I think also the beauty. I mean, rain gardens can be really, really beautiful as well, and I think that's important. You know, adding to the sort of visual amenity for residents, as well as doing, you know, all sorts of stuff for biodiversity and being very, very practical response to the risk of flooding, and and also, you know, mitigating against further pollution of the river. So I think this is really, really practical, and it'd be really interesting to see what the consultants come up with. So yes, very, really positive.
Thank you. Councillor O'Donnell.
Yes, thank you. Just to come back on that, really, in support. I know that the Somerset Rivers Authority have given a very good presentation back in January, where now the emphasis is really to try and catch up rainwater where it falls. Don't let it just run off, catch it. You know, we should all be trying to catch it in our gardens. And I take it these quick question. I take it these parks are just indicative, and but the consultants might come up with their own versions. Yeah. So do you think they'd look for parks that are kind of at sloping or hills? You know, because I can imagine a flat park might be. And also, how deep can the water get in these?
So it's site specific. Usually a swale could be a couple of meters because it would usually go on an existing ditch. So that's why Hamilton Galt has been selected, because there is a ditch at the back of there. So it can enhance the efficiency of that space to be able to collect water, because it's already a natural feature in the landscape that's going to do that. I can't remember what your second part of your question was, sorry.
No, are they just looking at parks that are kind of a natural sloping?
Yeah, so that would be something that a consultant would probably do a desk study where they would look at historic flood maps and they would be able to see areas that are at high risk, and then they would go to a site visit and then actually see where they're suitable. And you could also create a rain garden around an existing structure, so the pavilions, for example, capturing the rainwater that's coming off the roofs.
It's at 2 meters. I can see why the risk assessment.
That's very fun. They can be very shallow as well.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any more questions for Jordan? This wonderful project? No? Okay, thank you.
Donald Ellis race again.
Have I any?
No, we're just wanting to do the whole we're doing the proposing thing, but we're having a battle here.
We're going for a proposal.
Yes.
Oh, okay, so we're going for a proposal
So
already.
you seem to be coming to a conclusion of the discussion. So Councillor Ellis.
Preempting me already.
Getting on the mark to propose.
So we're being, in essence, we're being asked to approve the rain gardens. We've reviewed it and we're going to approve the rain gardens and swales project brief, ready for distribution to potential consultants, and also to note that that item will come back to committee once the quotes and indicative budgets are received and established. So we have a proposal with Councillor Ellis. We have a second of Councillor O'Donnell. All those in favour? That's carried. Thank you, and thank you, Jordan. But don't go anywhere, you are. So our last and final report for tonight is tree maintenance and replacement for climate resilience policy. Just changing my screen. So we've got quite a lengthy recommendations follow this, so I'll just read those out in brief before we get going. So we've been asked to recommend the adoption of the newly created tree maintenance and replacement for climate resilience policy to the Finance and Governance Committee. I was going to do an Councillor O'Donnell going FinGov. That's that acronym again. To approve the separating out of the tree maintenance policy, tree development programme and grassland management strategy for the parks, open spaces and play areas into two separate policies, and to approve the delegated authority to the Climate and Place Officer to develop an updated tree strategy, building upon the current tree development programme to run between 2026 and 2030, and to approve the Climate and Place Officer to lead the Taunton's Tree Strategy Steering Group with the invited expertise of external stakeholders to assist in the development of the tree strategy. So just before the report, this is something we discussed quite a bit, didn't we, in the agenda setting meeting that preceded this, because I felt that this is sort of straying into the operations team as well, and because Jordan sits within our under the umbrella of community in place, which is hence it's come here, but there will be heavy involvement with the operations teams, the parks and open spaces with Councillor O'Donnell. So it's just to give you that little bit of a background context, because you're thinking, why are we talking about trees when it sort of comes across onto the operations? So Jordan, over to you.
Thank you, Chair.
And hang on. Great.
Yeah, sorry, Chair. Just a slight amendment to the recommendations, if I may just suggest.
Yeah,
so under the heading, the reason, the purpose for the report, that has the amended recommendations that weren't copied to the bottom of the report, which actually highlights the recommendations. So apologies, there's just some slight amendments to the delegated authority, which shows at the top.
Okay, so when we've heard Jordan's report, we'll come back to that and we'll get that. We'll get that.
Brilliant.
Thank you. Over to you, Councillor Craig. Jordan.
Thank you, Chair. Just want to preface this by saying I am open to a new title because it is very, very long. So if there's any suggestions for a new title, I welcome them. And just to go back as well before I go into the report on what you were saying about the ops and assets, the Open Spaces lead was involved in the creation of this policy, so he has read through it and added his own bits. So As you know, we've undergone quite a rapid expansion to meet the growing needs of our community and provide services that have been devolved to us now by Somerset Council. From April, we took the management of 14 parks, which we did not have previously with our current policy when that was created. So because of that, we do need an updated policy that reflects the fact that we've now taken on this management. It was also written before I was in post, so it didn't necessarily have the climate lens on it as well. And as it currently stands, the policy is a very small policy, but it covers 3 very large distinct areas. It covers the tree maintenance protocols, a tree development programme, which is essentially a tree strategy, and also the grassland management strategy. So what I'm proposing is that these are actually separated out into 3 separate items. The attached document focuses on the tree maintenance and replacement side of things. I'm then wanting to hopefully steer a new tree strategy with a panel of experts and selected community voices for a new updated tree strategy from 2026 to 2030. There is a list of invitees on the document, and there's also a terms of reference that's also attached. And the grassland management strategy would then be its own policy because it deals with enhancing the diversity of the sward of our green spaces, so it actually focuses on the grass. By updating the policy, we can demonstrate that we are meeting our statutory biodiversity duty of enhancing and protecting biodiversity by reflecting the changing times and best practice. It also allows us to align to national targets for 2030, which is laid out in the Environment Act of 2021, to have 30% of land and sea protected and managed for by nature for 2030. It also aligns us with county-wide nature recovery targets and the local nature recovery strategy for Somerset. For ease of management, there has also been a tree replacement catalogue created. That's essentially a live document which will be managed by myself and my apprentice. It will have the most up-to-date information on tree species that are appropriate for our local area and their climate resilience benefits. And the hope is that the Open Spaces team will be able to use this as an approved list of species that we should be planting our replacements from and new trees. In terms of climate plan implications, it fulfills various climate targets we've set. In terms of financial implications, it's officer time and there may be some future costs associated with implications of creating a tree strategy in the sense of expanding planting, improving quality of maintenance to enhance the longevity of the trees that we are planting and caring for, and potentially some costs that might come up with some community engagement that we might want to do. But in terms of some long-term savings that it can provide, it reduces the urban heat island effect, which affects homes, offices, healthcare services, and people's livelihoods. It enhances our nature-based solutions of improved air quality and ecosystem stability, as well as flood resilience. And it also improves social equity for underserved areas. In terms of the risks associated, currently, we have some potentially outdated maintenance protocols, so we have the risk of reduced survival rates for tree populations, which reduces our climate resilience. And we also currently don't have alignment with the national and county-wide nature recovery targets. That might result in reduced functional diversity, lower survival rates, and a lack of generational turnover for the tree populations, again leading to reduced climate resilience. And quality impact assessment was conducted. We looked at age, disability, carers, pregnancy, maternity, religion and belief. The risks we found were risk of disrupted paths, depending on where trees are planted, which could cause accessibility issues, and issues associated with tree felling where paths might have to be closed. We'd therefore make sure we identify appropriate locations for tree planting and have adequate communication to prevent issues with residents when trees need to be felled for health and safety purposes.
Thank you, Jordan. That's fantastic. Any questions? Councillor O'Donnell and then Councillor Ennis.
Thank you very much. I might, my first one is looking at probably quite a simple one and something that we need to take forward before you go to finance and government is just for anyone watching at home and need to know, don't like acronyms. On the policy, I've noticed that number 9, reactive and proactive work, we need a space between describes and responding. However, that's quite a low level. But I was looking at number 10, emergency response and risk mitigation, and which is fine. We need to respond if there's pests and diseases, and we also need to respond when there's been storms to severe weather. But in 10.2, we then move into an element of tree works will not be undertaken in the following circumstances to improve television or internet signals. So again, as councillors, we often get phoned up by residents and say, oh, there's a tree in a park and these are overhanging, it's in my garden, can we have it chopped, you know, and pruned and whatever. And you know, sometimes you go, well, sympathetic, but unfortunately, you know, there's some policy. This is part of our policy that, you know, if that resident comes over and says, oh, so notice it's got things that tree works will not be undertaken for, is one of them is, oh, nuisance caused by bird droppings. But these are things that as councillors we might get called up upon, and it seems to be buried in the wrong section. And I'm wondering if it should be moved into section 9, the reactive and proactive work. So tree cutting, you know, we will be asked as councillors, oh, there's this tree, there's a problem. All the birds sitting there and they keep popping on the ground. Can you do something about that tree? And I don't think anyone would ever find in that policy, oh, no, I'm afraid we won't. So, because that's going to be a reactive work. So I do feel that that list, tree works will not be undertaken in the following circumstances. It should be moved into section 9. And can I just also ask, is that a standard list? That, you know, obviously we wouldn't start pruning trees, so somebody can get a better television signal, but bird droppings can be quite a nuisance. And, you know, would we consider amending a tree if it was overhanging pavement, which was causing a lot of muck on the ground, which potentially people can slip on and is not sightly. We all know about the bridge, the railway bridge. And you know, I was wondering if some of the other ones, so allow more lights into properties, I guess that is something we would, I know that has been quoted back at the residents before, that they won't chop a tree because it's simply blocking their light. But yes, so the first thing I'll say is that list needs to be moved into 9. But is that a standard list that is operated by other councils, Somerset Council and the like? I'm going to leave it there because that's quite a lot to unpack.
Jordan.
Thank you, Chair. So that list is actually from our existing policy.
Right.
So it's been copied across, and
Right.
then Adrian had oversight of this as well,
Right,
over
okay,
spaces.
That's fine. Sounds we're happy with that.
Yeah. In terms of what you're saying about droppings potentially causing hazards on paths, I mean, we might be able to put a statement in there that states if it causes a health and safety risk potentially, then it's deemed appropriate.
Yeah. That's the only one that stands out for me actually, as you know, no, to improve television signal, no. So, but again, just so don't miss it, I think it needs to be in the reactive and proactive section of the policy.
That's sort of something you can shuffle around.
I can shuffle it around here.
Thank you. Craig, did you want to come back before I go to Councillor Ellis?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Yeah, thanks. The only thing I was going to say is that I think each individual case will have to be assessed kind of like independently, and we can't be too binary on a policy whether something needs to happen or not. I think every individual case and scenario will have its own kind of conditions that we would need to consider before we make any kind of action on chopping trees or whatever.
Well, in that case, you might want to amend tree works will not to be undertaken, because that's quite categoric. So, tree works may not be considered for the following circumstances.
Yeah, noted. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Ellis.
Yeah, no, I strongly welcome this as a huge piece of work. Thank you so much, Jordan, for bringing your expertise to bear. Because back in the day, well, even we had a 3-for-1 at SWT, but all that happened was a tree came down, had to be removed, and then some guys would turn up in a van and stick some stuff in the ground, like one there, one there, one there, and you'd say, oh, great, can you tell me what species they are? They had no idea what they were planting, none whatsoever, people planting them. And then you'd have to send an email and somebody would grudgingly say, oh, right, here's the list. And then you'd ask about the aftercare silence. radio silent. So this is a step beyond that old way of working, and I think it's really positive that Jordan's been working on this, but not just that. If you've got buy-in from open spaces, that really is super, super positive. So we're kind of turbocharging our approach to this and being like really serious, because it does matter what trees you put where, and how they are cared for. So it's like saying we are going to do this really, really properly and really, really well, and with a lot of care, way more care than there was in the past, way more sort of intent. So it's great you've got the tree catalogue, because yeah, sometimes species have gone and you think, what spindly little things that don't last 5 minutes, they're gone, half of them don't last. So this is really positive, and I think what will be important is like lots of nice comms around it. So for example, in French we're now the tree, I forget when this was, we missed the planting season, didn't we? But there will be one coming up, or actually we're doing that sooner rather than later. So there's going to be a site, instead of just sticking like that tree came down there nearby, stick a tree in, there's going to be more thoughtful approach, isn't there, to sort of think, well, we could put like a little group, a little roundel or something here. So it's going to be much more considered, but I think we'll have to do a lot of comms explaining to people, right, well, this X tree came down, what we're thinking is we're going to put this in here, so that people expect it and they're kind of like, all right, and they understand, you know, it's going to be this species, because I think all of that. So it's also about a hookup with comms as well. And I do agree, yeah, with Nick. I think it would be much better to put that, soften that thing about we won't underdo it, you know, say whatever your wording was, or we won't usually, so that we've got that flexibility. Because I've got situations in what's in your patch actually, where there's a guy who lives next door to this massive, I think it's a lime tree. It's absolutely enormous, and it totally, the last occupant of his house, all the leaves, they're elderly, right? All the leaves come down. He slipped on it, and yeah. So that would be a health, to my mind. All he doesn't want it knocked down. He just wants it, like, you know, pruned a little bit. And then, you know, at Somerset's like, no. Computer says no, and I'm like, oh, you know, let's have a bit more common sense and a bit more flexibility here. So I think this is an excellent piece of work, and yeah, and I agree with Nick about moving that section. Yeah, brilliant.
Thank you, Councillor Rose. It's about having the appropriate tree species in the appropriate area, and not just putting the tree for the sake of the tree's sake, because they're not all appropriate for a particular, as you say, the lime tree. It's got too big for where it is. So it's looking at those things. Councillor O'Donnell.
So, you know, all in favour of this policy, because you know, we can't have enough trees, and any policy that really prioritise trees is a very good policy. So I didn't think I was going to have much to say about this one, but going back to Councillor Ellis's point of view, yes, I was looking through the strategy, and again with replacement, we've seen this one in so my local park. I've seen two times when trees have been replanted. The first time by I think SWT, and they just plant them in there, walked away and hoped for the best. And then the next time when we had it with the Urban Tree Challenge, that came round, you know, well planted, nice space, guarded, nice fencing, and I was wondering if the aftercare. I know we've got our watering maintenance there, which is essential, absolutely essential. Trees, you know, just can't rely on the natural rainfall in order to survive. But I do feel something in the policy needs about how we're going to protect the trees, you know, as saplings, you know, the kind of aftercare there.
Is that about the guards that?
Yes, yes, I didn't see that in the report. I remember seeing something about the water strategy.
So yeah, there is a section on the tree garden.
So I think that's so important.
Yeah, and it was talking about investing in high quality ones that can be reused in future years. So yeah.
Raise one more last point.
My
last point. So because I suddenly realised, and Councillor Ellis will remember this, we had a very good meeting about tree streets, wasn't it?
Trees for streets, yeah.
Trees for streets. Now, I know that can't be covered by this policy because trees for streets comes under highways. And if any resident says, oh, I fancy it, you know, they get together and say, we want to put a tree here. But it's highways, they always go back to the residents and say, you need the support of your local parish town council. So at that point, we might find residents, oh, we've approached trees for streets, and they say, oh, and said, yes, that's lovely. And we've gone to the highways and said, well, and they said, we need to come to you for your support. Do we have anything in the policy where we can offer support and where we would assess, have to go through our kind of guidelines and assessment of to whether we would support should a resident come? I mean, I haven't noticed any resident in our town come for trees of the street, trees for streets. But I was wondering if there's something in the policy about, what would be our support towards residents if they approached us? Because as I say, highways always say, you need the support of your local council.
A fair point. That's a fair point. Yeah.
Yes, so that will be included in the tree strategy. We'll look at that because we did mention about trees for streets and tree strategy. So once we generate that, we can then come back to the policy and see if we need to add any amendments.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Yes, I'm done.
Councillor Ellis.
Quick addendum back on the trees for streets thing. So the conclusion we came to was it would be brilliant, but there's a big sign up fee and it wouldn't be economic for a town council to do that. However, and then Somerset were just going, we've got any money. So then, but there might be a way of, this is something maybe for this tree strategy to look at. For could we like have a sort of consortium of like Welly, Taunton, whatever, a number of town councils, because it would just be, it was like £8 a year. And the brilliance of it is you just go online. So somebody, I mean, I've had people, there's somebody at Richmond Road when we were doing an event in French Wood, remember when we would go out with Climate Action, and one of their asked, well, I'd love a tree here, but there's no mechanism with trees for streets. If you're part of that scheme, it goes on there. And it sort of prompts you to ensure that you're not proposing a tree in a city place. It says, is it, X, how wide is the pavement in that thing? Are there any overhead lines, all of that? And then if that's okay, then you input it. And the idea is that the resident makes a contribution, but then there's also a link back to the relevant authority so that we know, we would know, all right, here, they're offering X amount of money, and maybe we'd have a budget to help affect it, and then we'd have to negotiate with Somerset and all the rest of it. So I don't know if it's possible to do it, circumvent all that and do our own little scheme, but it's definitely something for the tree strategy that they need to bottom out, really.
Thank you, Jordan. I think we're pretty much ready to go with the vote and recommendations. So as Craig mentioned earlier, the recommendations, we amended them in the agenda setting meeting, and they probably didn't get onto the, did they come on to?
It does say policy to finance and governance.
Yeah, we changed the wording, didn't we?
It was the addition of the delegated authority to the head of operations and the climate officer. So it was just
number one.
that.
Can I just say, Chair, probably to pass on our comments, because we've made suggestions to what we should feel it should be included or amendments. So I guess we need to agree to pass those recommendations on to finance and governance.
Yeah, okay. That will come under the first one then, won't it? Yeah. So so the first recommendation is to agree and recommend the adoption of a newly created tree maintenance and replacement for climate resilience policy to the Finance and Governance Committee, with along with the comments raised at meeting place. That's the first one. Yeah. Okay. I think we'll take these individually because they're a bit wordy, so we'll take them individually. So so on that first one, can I have a proposer? It's Councillor Ellis and a second. And a seconder, Councillor Strauss. All those in favour? Okay. Number 2, to agree the separating out of the tree maintenance policy, tree development programme and grassland management strategy for parks, open spaces and play areas into 2 separate policies. Proposer Councillor O'Donnell, seconder Councillor Ellis. All those in favour? That's carried, thank you. Number 3, to approve delegated authority to head of operations and the climate and place officer to develop an updated tree strategy building upon the current tree development programme to run between 2026 and 2030. And Councillor Ellis proposes, Councillor Strauss seconds. All those in favour? And carried. And finally, number 4, to approve the Climate and Place Officer to lead the Taunton's Tree Strategy Steering Group and the population of the tree strategy contents with the invited expertise of internal and external stakeholders to assist in the development of the strategy. Can I have a proposer, Councillor Pollard, and a seconder, Councillor Ellis? All those in favour? And that's carried. Thank you very much. And that brings us to the end of our business for today. Thank you all very much.
Very good, thank you.
And thank you, Jordan.